Hey, hey. Sort of like that meme. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Deluzio, and welcome back. A very long welcome back to Thrillers and Tea. So, the beginning of this, it's not going to be the same as a lot of those past episodes. I felt like I had more structure talking about, oh, you should like and follow the show and comment your thoughts and all of that. I would love all of that. And there have been quite a few of you that have been following the show, even though there hasn't been a new episode in roughly 4 to 5 months, I think. And the last time that I posted, it wasn't even really an episode, it was a life update talking about how I was moving and I'd come back when I was done moving. That was hilarious. That was back in like June. I was moving in June, so I thought by July I would be all set. My brain was living in an alternative universe that just wasn't realizing reality, and that moves are stressful, which, to be honest, let me be frank, this move actually wasn't too bad. It's just life got very, very busy. I still don't even have everything unpacked because it definitely is a long process, and work has just been extremely busy, and now that holiday season is coming up, it's a lot. So I do want to preface this episode by saying I won't have a concrete schedule for when episodes come out. So I'd like for everyone to kind of look at this show as just like some bonus content in your life. You have all those podcasts and shows that you follow. And then when an episode of this comes out, it's kind of like oh, I didn't have anything to listen to in the moment. So I'm going to listen to this. I have seen a lot of new followers of the show, even though stuff wasn't coming out. I want to just say thank you so much for that, and for just everyone that's been listening to it. I'm honestly surprised that so many people have still been checking it out, and I feel like there's a lot of value to the show and maybe some entertainment as well. And I'd love to keep providing that for everyone. I really enjoy doing this show, and it kind of is my side thing to everything else that I'm doing in life, whether it's writing a book, working my full-time job, being a loving partner to my boyfriend. Like I'm really trying to do it all. Much more other things as well that we all do in life, but I would love to keep this going. And I really do enjoy the show, and I just want to thank all of you for that and for coming back. I just felt like I had to do a Colleen Hoover book. We've done two already. So, very first episode was Verity, and I loved that book at the time that I read it. Then we did November 9, which both of those episodes were with my friend Shayna. And November 9 was just a big miss personally for me. This book is sort of in the middle. I think it sucks more than Verity, but I think it sucks less than November 9. So interesting. I'm just going to say my star rating to start. So Verity at the time was 5 stars for me. November 9 was 2 stars, and I was feeling a little generous, I'm not going to lie. But this book was more like a 3. I could understand why people would also give it 4 stars. Like it's definitely middle of the road for me, and I'm going to get more into that. But yeah, I mean, for me, I know some people loved this book and some people absolutely hated it. I think there is some good. I when I first finished the book, I was not loving it. We'll just say, in shorter words, I was not loving it. Then I saw the movie, and it made me appreciate the book 10 million times more. So I'm going to touch on the movie as well. If you haven't read this book or seen the movie and you want to do those things, I recommend stopping this episode after I give all the spoiler free version of my review. So, what I do typically do is I'll read the little blurb. I'm going to do that for all of you, of course. Then I go into some spoiler free, like short version review. And then I'm going to like really get into it with the spoiler filled. I have some fun book club questions. And I do have a little bit of a book. I shouldn't say book theory, but more so a movie theory for everyone that was wondering about all the drama between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover. I may have discovered what was going on, but it's allegedly, it's not 100% confirmed, But I know that this drama was something really big when the movie came out, and then it sort of has died down. I am here to bring it back. I'm kicking the sand up. The storm's a brewing. But yes, I am so sorry that I took a while to come back, but I am back. I'm not necessarily back every week or every other week. I would love to be back every other week or even once a month would be nice. That's the goal. If that doesn't happen, I am sorry about that. Just think of this as a little bonus. Like when you bake a cake, you put the frosting on, I'm the sprinkles. I'm just a little bonus. You don't need sprinkles, but it's nice and it's better. The cake tastes better when you have sprinkles on it. Anyway, enough about me. Let's start getting into this book. And I'm first going to read the wonderful blurb of It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Sometimes it is the one who loves you who hurts you the most. Lily hasn't always had it easy, but that's never stopped her from working hard for the life she wants. She's come a long way from the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated from college, moved to Boston, and started her own business. So when she feels a spark with a gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid, everything in Lily's life suddenly seems almost too good to be true. Ryle is assertive, stubborn, maybe even a little arrogant. He's also sensitive, brilliant, and has a total soft spot for Lily. And the way he looks in scrubs certainly doesn't hurt. Lily can't get him out of her head, but Ryle's complete aversion to relationships is disturbing. Even as Lily finds herself becoming the exception to his no dating rule, she can't help but wonder what made him that way in the first place. As questions about her new relationship overwhelm her, so do thoughts of Atlas Corrigan, her first love and a link to the past she left behind. He was her kindred spirit, her protector. When Atlas suddenly reappears, everything Lily has built with Ryle is threatened. Okay, so that was the blurb for It Ends With Us. So essentially, so yeah, at the beginning of this book, and this isn't going to really give anything away, but Lily's father passes away. She's supposed to give a eulogy. She doesn't say anything. And, you're kind of left wondering why, which in the spoiler filled, I'll get into why. But, she has a hard time with that. She still has her mom in her life. And after she kind of bombs that, she goes on a rooftop, and that's how she meets Ryle. And Ryle is this neurosurgeon. I was happy that Colleen Hoover, she did address the unrealisticness of Ryle being a 28-year-old neurosurgeon because that's not possible. With the amount of schooling and practicing that you have to go through. I honestly, she got me there. I didn't notice that as I was reading it because maybe I forgot he was 28 or I wasn't putting two and two together because I'm not a neurosurgeon. But it was nice that, she acknowledged, okay, like some things were a little stretched, and that's okay because this is fiction, which actually while I say that it's fiction, this book, I didn't know this at the time when I read it, but this book is based off of Colleen Hoover's mother's relationship. So that when I kind of was ripping into the book a little bit in my written version, not I wasn't ripping too much, but when I was and then I discovered that, I did feel a little bit bad about that because I don't think anyone should ever go through this type of situation that we're going to be talking about, which also I do want to give a little bit of a trigger warning to people who we will be talking about domestic abuse. So yeah, that is my trigger warning there. That's definitely going to be coming up in the spoiler filled version. So I do want to warn people about that. So Lily meets Ryle, and it's sort of just like a small talk type of situation, but they do start hitting it off. And now with the book versus the movie, I'm going to be doing a lot of that as well. So this book, it goes back and forth between her current life where she's talking to Ryle, this new guy in her life, and then it will go to her journal entry pages that kind of touch back on her past with this guy named Atlas, which was, someone from her younger years that ended up being a very important connection for her and became an important person and man in her life growing up. And I will say in the book, I really enjoyed that aspect of going back and forth between the present day and this letter writing. I felt like it was a strong plot device. There's a little, so she's writing letters to Ellen DeGeneres that did not age well. This was all before all the controversy with Ellen happened. So that did not age well, but I still think it's a good plot device that, she was writing to the celebrity that she loved her show, and it was just like a way for her to talk to someone without really talking to someone, but she was still able to get out her feelings. And I felt like that was one of the strongest parts of the book. So, for those who don't remember, the way that I rate books, I go through a sort of star rating where I judge a book on entertainment, characters, plot, writing style, and the finished product. The finished product, like 95% of the time, gets a star. And then everything else, I kind of go through it. I did feel like the book engaged me. I will give it that. I wasn't bored reading it, and I did want to learn more about what was going to happen next. Not that there's really big twists. I guess for people who don't typically read books, maybe you wouldn't see a certain thing or two coming, but I think for the regular reader, especially regular readers of contemporary romance, which this book is, you definitely see it. I think you see, or you have a feeling of what's going to happen, and I did have that myself. When it comes to, which I will be getting deeper into this later, but the characters for me overall as a whole, I I think I liked a couple. There's one I can think of specifically that I really liked, and then there was one, at least like one or two that I absolutely despise, which at the same time, that is decent writing if, the writer can make you really like or really dislike a character. But there was just other things off that I wasn't fully sold on the characters or like some of the dialogue that was taking place. So that was I had some issues there. I definitely had some issues with the plot. I just I would be giving away things if I really delve into that right now. But just, yeah, with the characters and the plot, I think there were things that worked, and I think there were things that didn't work. The writing style, I just can't. Hmm. How do I go about this? So, for anyone that's read Frida McFadden books, not everyone agrees with this, and that's okay. But her and Colleen Hoover, I kind of feel the same way about, where they're easy reads to me and to a lot of other people that I've talked to. They're not Socrates over here. It's not the most, complex writing, which there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes I like to be moved by the words that I'm reading. I can truly appreciate a beautiful writing style. These are a little bit more straightforward, but I also feel like if you don't read a lot, these are great books because, you're not having to be like, oh, what just happened there? You're not feeling confused about what's going on. It's not, the language isn't dressed up unnecessarily. So, I just feel like her books are like that, and this is another one like that. You get a very direct telling to what's going on for the most part, I think. But for me, it's just I like to be glossed up a little bit. I like to dress up in the language, one would say. Okay, so I don't know what else to say for the spoiler free. So we will be right back, and then I will get into the spoiler filled. So this is the part where you like stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled. And if you don't care about any spoilers, or if you've already read this and you're like ready, if you're truly ready, then we're going to get into it. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So now we're going to go into the spoiler filled version of the review. First thing I'm going to say, I fucking hate Ryle. We're just going right in. I want to go through each individual character and what I felt about them, but I just have to get that off my chest that I fucking hate him. And what's interesting though is some people have told me that they do feel compassion for him. And I know in the blurb, you're supposed to get this like yin and yang about him. And the reason why I hate him so much is he's an abuser. And I guess it's a complex topic. And especially for, this book, we end up having Ryle's sister is another character in this book. And if anyone is also in a difficult position, I would say it's her because, and it's just something that we have to ask ourselves, like, what do we do if someone that we love that is in our family, is like hitting their partner? And it's like, do you still have any love for them? Do you completely cut them off? Like it's just, I feel like it's complex because you have this whole developed relationship with them, and now you have to see them in another light. You have to see the full reality of what's going on. And I don't know, if I asked myself that question, I don't I don't think I would have contact with that family member. If it was my sibling and they were doing that, like they were physically and mentally abusing their partner, I don't think I could allow that. And if anything, I would be supportive of the person that they're doing this to, and I would want to be a resource for them, even if some people would view that as like some sort of betrayal. Domestic abuse is never okay, in my opinion. I don't think it is. So, okay. So I'm going to start off with the entertainment and kind of what my issues is when it comes to the entertainment. So, with this book, and I'm not going to say every single plot point, but I think one of my issues with Colleen Hoover books in general, because I've noticed this, I've read 4 books now, because I also read the sequel to this. I don't think I will be doing an episode on it unless you guys really want it, but I will admit it's boring. It is a boring book, and it's almost a waste of an episode. I probably could still have a lot of fun with it, but it's just there. It's just a fart in the wind. So I just don't know if it's necessary, but if you really want it, let me know. And maybe I can do it. But there has to be enough demand. Supply and demand I will give if you want to take. So, okay, here's my issue. With all the books that I've read of her so far, and I know I'm not the only one, but I know people disagree as well, is that I feel like Colleen Hoover, she romanticizes traumatic events, like general traumatic things that can happen in someone's life. Because this book, it's, Lily meets Ryle, they fall in love, they get married, and then, he starts being abusive towards her. And I just felt like the way that it was written and the way that it's portrayed to the reader, it almost comes off that the domestic abuse is being written as like, oh, this is the entertainment of the book, like this is supposed to keep you engaged. And it makes me feel a little icky, because it just, I don't know. It's hard to say, because I was going to say that it doesn't feel genuine, but I also know she's writing this off of a story that happened in her personal life. So I know her intentions are probably genuine when she was writing this, but the marketing of it for me just didn't feel right. And now that I've seen this in all of the books that I've read of her so far, it just kind of makes me wonder a little bit. It's like, why are we like in November 9, they're like, the main character went through a very traumatic experience, and there's like a big twist on the traumatic experience that really felt wrong. And Verity has its twists, and there's definitely like a lot of wrongdoing there. And I know these are works of fiction, but then with this one specifically, knowing that there's some realistic inspiration from it, I don't know. I don't know. It kind of makes you wonder, like, is she profiting off of, like, is she just trying to profit off of traumatic experiences, or is she just trying to share, important stories? And I think you could take it either way. It's just, yeah, some of the delivery for me, it doesn't come off with the best intention, but I could be completely wrong about that. I don't love it. And I've read some really tough things, but the way that it was written and portrayed, there was a good like turnaround. There was a good like lessons learned, where with this, it almost just happens because it happens, which I guess, in real life, that can happen. Things do just happen and they're really shitty, and it doesn't get better for a while. So, I'm going back and forth now. I'm going back and forth. But that was kind of my thing with the entertainment, is it feels wrong to call this story entertainment, because there are some cute little moments before all of that happens, but then you end up going down some really dark roads with this story. There's a situation where he burns his hand, and Ryle burns his hand, and Lily's laughing about it, and he hits her in the face, and it's heartbreaking. I'm tearing up. It's really heartbreaking. And one of the biggest scenes that happens later in the book is that he rapes her, and it was tough. It was tough to get through. It's making me emotional just thinking about it, and that's why, like, and that's why, like, the worked up emotions, it's just tough. It's just tough to be like, oh, because I think one of the issues too is this book, it's being tossed around as a romance novel, and it is contemporary romance, which is very different from like your meet cute romances. And then like people would confuse this book with dark romance, which I feel like is just a different thing. Like I wouldn't consider this dark romance. And I know like there's some workarounds around there, and I don't think there's any shame in liking dark romance. I I just like, it just feels different, It feels different. He continuously, he definitely mentally abuses her. I don't want to like specifically get into, I already said like some of the really big stuff. There's another point where he pushes her down the stairs, and it's just really hard to read at times. I feel like it kind of happens like one after another, and it just, you lose a lot of hope, sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a tough read, and that's why I think it's also hard to be like, oh, I'd love this book because of what's going on. Like it's hard to love what's going on. Okay, so characters. So I'm going to start off with Lily Bloom herself. By the way, I hate that name. Which, it's supposed to kind of be a joke, but I hate that name, Lily Bloom. And I think her middle name, if I'm not mistaken, it's Lily Blossom Bloom or something. It's so ridiculous. It- that is the biggest work of fiction here for sure. But okay, Lily herself. Now, I'm going to talk about how I felt about the characters in the book and in the movie, because trust me, it is very different. So, well, for the most part, it's very different. So, Lily in the book, I liked her, and I felt like she was a smart character. I felt like, so one thing that people kind of had some issues with was that when some of the abuse was going on, she didn't leave right away. And for some people that are able to leave right away, if I'm going to bring a personal experience into my own, into this episode, I, one of my exes, long story short, one of my exes had hit me, and I ended the relationship. And fortunately, it was just easy to get out of that situation, but it's not easy to get out of abusive situations all the time. And it's also, I feel like it's very human and it's very realistic. This is one thing that I did like about the book, is that I felt like it was very realistic that she wouldn't end the relationship right away, because it's really tough. Not only to get out of the situation, but to, I feel like a part of you is still fighting for it to make it work, because you love this person, and you might think, oh, maybe this was a one time thing. Like they didn't mean it. They said, I'm sorry. And it's just it, or like you're just, your situation financially, even if you get to the point where you want to leave, like you might physically not be able to. And even like emotionally and mentally, you're just, sometimes you're not ready to get out of that situation. And there's just a lot of different factors, and I felt like that was done well in the book. I felt like that was done well. I don't think she's an idiot at all for how she was feeling through the whole relationship and trying to make it work for a while. she eventually does end the relationship, and that's because through the sexual assault, she does get pregnant, and the thought of Ryle potentially hurting the baby is what causes Lily to end the relationship. And that's hence the title of the book being called It Ends With Us, because we're going to end a cycle. And I hadn't revealed it yet, but her mother went through an abusive, was in an abusive relationship with her father. And that's why Lily had a tough time talking at the funeral, like saying, like, she's supposed to say something nice about him. And she literally had nothing, because she had nothing nice to say, because he was a shitty partner to her mother. And I guess I could get into him, or wait, I didn't even get into, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. I'm skipping ahead. This is what I get for skipping ahead. I was going to start talking about the dad, but that we'll save him later. Lily in the movie. So Lily in the movie was played by Blake Lively. And yeah, oh God, I don't want to get a lot of hate for this. I feel like Blake Lively, she's good at playing Blake Lively. I feel like she kind of just plays herself. And that was sort of what I was getting from the movie. I didn't really see a Lily necessarily. If anything, I saw Serena from Gossip Girl, which I think is just Blake Lively being herself. And I'm not trying to say she's a bad actress. It's just the range. I just don't see a big range there. So movie Lily, I obviously still felt bad for movie Lily, but there's also things with they left a lot out in the movie, and I felt like really important scenes were either cut out completely or they were like hidden from us, and I did not like that. Like these abusive situations, not that they necessarily need to show it all and like show it for a long time, but I felt like they were almost like a blink of an eye situation, and I also felt like they were trying to really shape Ryle into like a sympathetic guy. And I get it, like you're supposed to see him in two different ways, but I just have no sympathy for him. And obviously there is some bias there, and I think there's bias whether you've been in a similar situation or not, but that is why I have bias, because I have been in a couple of abusive situations. So it's really difficult and challenging for me to find sympathy or empathy in someone who who has acted the way that Ryle has in this book. Like it's just really hard for me to get on board with that. But yeah, movie Lily, she almost came off a little bit ditzier to me, and not like necessarily about her relationship, but just like in general a little bit bland. I felt like book Lily was just maybe more innovative is the word to go with. I felt like she was more reflective, maybe not as empty. Oh my god, that sounds so bad, but just yeah, just go watch the movie, read the book, watch the movie, and then you'll understand. So Ryle Kincaid, so this is the neurosurgeon, and of course he's a neurosurgeon. It's like, of course he's a rich, successful, good-looking man. That's very typical in romance books, even contemporary romance. So book Ryle, like I said, I really do hate him. I just there to me there was nothing redeeming, and that's why movie Ryle, it was tough because Justin Baldoni plays him. And so Justin Baldoni, if you've ever seen Jane the Virgin, he's like one of the main guys in that show, and he's gorgeous and I love him. He seems like a really nice, genuine guy. So seeing him in this like darker role, no bueno. I did not like that. I was like, no, Justin, no. Where book Riley, I didn't get an image. Oh, that's another thing too. We always, when you read a book and you picture a character a certain way and then you watch the movie, none of them matched for me. I don't know if that happened with anyone else, but like even Lily, like I didn't picture Lily to look like Blake Lively at all. I didn't like Ryle being Justin Baldoni, I didn't Ryle this sounds so bad because I said a lot about like, him being abusive and stuff, but like I really pictured him to be white, blonde, and muscular. And he was muscular in the movie, but he has black hair in the movie. And I think Justin is Middle Eastern, maybe, or Greek. I don't know 100%, but it's just so bad that my mind went to like, yes, the white man was the bad man. Like, I don't know why. Like he came off very and this just sounds so bad, but like he came off very militant, like I pictured kind of like a military looking guy, and I'm not saying that military men are abusive. It's just my mind sort of went there with while I was reading. Anyway, I'm going to keep going now. So yeah, Book Ryle, he goes through so in the story, he goes through something very traumatic where he accidentally shot his brother and killed him when they were, I want to say they were 6 years old, or I think Ryle was 6 years old. So I know they're trying to connect, like that was a very traumatic experience and that has made him the person that he is today. Do I excuse that trauma for his, current actions with Lily? No, I do not. I think some people would. In my opinion, no, I don't. I think you're a scumbag. And I feel like that's what therapy is for, like to work through this shit. And I know it's tough. I know it's tough. I've been through therapy. It was fucking hard. And I had my issues that I had to work through. And the same thing goes for Ryle. Like you are an adult and you are responsible for your own actions. So if you're a piece of shit, then that is on you. That is no one else's responsibility to fix you. Like you have to go and put in the work yourself. And that's something with therapy too. It's a little bit of a side note where I think some people feel like they will go to therapy and all their problems will be solved. Going to therapy is only half the work. The therapist is doing work, but you yourself, you have to put in the other half. And that will make change. That will make positive change. All right, so I'm good there. On my little therapy soapbox. So yeah, I want to say I liked movie Ryle more, not just because it was Justin Baldoni, but I think because of the way they painted him. I feel like they painted him to be more sympathetic, whereas the book, I'm like, I hate you. Stop hurting Lily. Stop hurting women. I hate you. Ugh. Whereas like the movie, I felt like I guess it did a better job at like sort of cutting down all those horrible things that he did and how he was treating her. And I guess that's all I really have to say on that. We're going to go to the next character, which is Atlas Corrigan. So, oh, I have a little bit of mixed emotions when it comes to him. He's supposed to be the more positive male choice, I would say. Like at the end of the day, he technically is the better choice. There's a little thing about him, at least in when they were younger, that I don't like, but as adults I don't really have an issue with them. It's just in their past I have a little bit of an issue with him. So okay, book Atlas, he comes up a lot in the journal entries, but the thing that they hint at in the blurb is that Lily, she goes to a restaurant with Ryle. I think it's also with her mother. I want to say it's the three of them. I don't know if it's also Elisa, which is Ryle's sister. We're going to get to her next, but I think we're going to get to her next. I have an outline, but the outline has 6 words on it, and that's one of them. So, anyway, so they go to a restaurant, and Lily sees Atlas. She hadn't seen him since childhood. And the whole thing with them in the past is that, okay, I got to rewind a little bit. So, in the past, Atlas was a homeless kid. I say, oh, I I say homeless kid, but he was 19 years old. Okay, this was the issue that I had with him was that he's 19 years old and she's 15 at the time when they met. They do have sex, they do get together, and I know there's gonna be some girlies out there, which I love you girlies, but I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna say, hey, when I was that age, I did the same thing. I went with an older man. Personally, for me, being frank, I also was with an older man when I was 17. He was 22. It doesn't make it right. Just because we did it doesn't make it right. I guess it does add some realism to it if I think about it more, but at the same time, it's a little icky to me because he's an adult and she's not an adult yet. So that was my main issue with him is it felt a little predatory to me. I don't love that, but I carry on. So they do when they're younger, they do end up developing a romantic relationship and no one he doesn't really have anyone in his life. Lily is like the main person that is supporting him emotionally and like even helping him out, like gifting him some things, having him stay in the house certain nights. So she helps a lot, and then he ends up um going away to like his uncle's, and they just never like he ends up moving to Boston, where because originally she didn't live in Boston, but she moved to Boston. That's where she is now. And I forgot to mention this when I was on Lily, but she is I'm trying to open up a flower shop. So that's why she ended up moving to Boston to do that. And when they go to the restaurant, first, Lily thinks, oh my God, like Atlas is a waiter here and I haven't seen him in so long. It's good to see him. And then it's revealed that Atlas owns the restaurant, that he's a really good chef and he owns the restaurant and he ended up being really successful. I think even if Atlas hadn't become as successful as a restaurant owner, I think Lily would still feel a deep connection to him personally because they had developed, when he had nothing. And I think that was the whole point of this like whole theme in the book of of the relationship between them, is that even when he had nothing, she was there and she was still loving him. And now that she is starting to go through this dark stuff, Atlas becomes a little bit of a support system for her. When she feels like she's losing everything, he's there for her now. And I did like that. I liked the parallel there. And in the movie, we don't get that. Or I felt like we didn't get that much. I felt like in the book you really feel it, and in the movie I just believe it skipped around a little too much to where I don't know, their relationship just didn't feel as strong, and I wonder if they're ever going to make a sequel movie and show more of that. But I felt like that essence was missing, and I didn't like that in the movie. Which, by the way, I ended up giving the movie a 1.5 out of 5 stars, and the book I have at 3. But anyway, so yeah, movie Atlas, I honestly don't have much opinion on. I felt like he just was kind of there. Like I felt like there was a heavy focus on Lily and Ryle. And I wonder if part of that too is that Justin, who plays Ryle, he was the director of the movie. He was the main producer. He really worked on the story, and he had like a lot. Well, he, you know, at least what I'm assuming, had a lot of control over this film. So I also wondered if that's why he was painted in like such a sympathetic way that he was, because Justin himself was playing that role. So I just don't know, I don't know if like if that altered things a bit. Whereas like the book, I feel like it's definitely more it doesn't feel as biased, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Overall book Atlas, I feel like he was a good guy. Like I said, the little childhood thing I didn't necessarily love, but when they are both consenting adults, I felt like he was a good support system for her. There's a part where he notices like she because he, so Atlas knew about Lily's parents' relationship with her mom being in a abusive relationship, because he'd be staying there. He was close to Lily. He would there was certain encounters that happened between Lily's parents that Atlas was prone to, and he could tell that Lily unfortunately ended up entering a similar type of relationship, and he immediately goes into protective mode. He I'm trying to remember if this happened in both. I know in the movie they fight. In the book, I don't know if as much fighting happens, but essentially, he's like trying to protect her. They get into a squabble. Overall, I think he was an okay guy. Okay, Elisa. So this is Elisa Kincaid. So this is Ryle's sister. In my opinion, the best character in the book and the movie. Definitely. And oh my god, I forgot that actress's name, but you see her and you'll know who I'm talking about. It's the woman that goes, "Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious." What? I don't know her name. I forgot to look it up. But I love her. I love that actress. Once again, I didn't picture the character in the book to be that, like, to look like that, to act like that necessarily. But okay, so book Elisa is she's Ryle's sister, and she doesn't need a job technically because so I can't even remember what she does, what her and Marshall do, which is her partner. I don't know what the hell they do, but she is well off and she doesn't need a job, but she gets a job at Lily's flower shop and they start really bonding. I really did like their friendship. And one thing I really loved about her is that she did not support Ryle's behavior once she learned what was going on. She felt so in the book, she felt a little like that something was off. I think she felt a little suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't. But in the movie, she felt a little too oblivious to it all. It felt like that she kind of got skipped around. Where in the book, I felt like she was feeling like something was a little off. Like she knows her brother and she knows that he doesn't typically date. And this is like a little bit of different behavior. I think Elisa was feeling hopeful that, like, okay, maybe he finally found something. I love that once she finds everything out and Lily confides in her, she does not support him at all. Like, she does not support that behavior at all. She doesn't defend him. I love that. So that made me really like her character because I'm just so happy because I think sometimes in real life, like that type of character would have defended her brother. I think that would have been human to do. And I just like that it didn't go in that direction and it didn't start becoming like an attack on Lily, which I feel like that could be realistic, though, that people would just assume she was lying about it and like all gang up on her. And I'm just happy that didn't happen. There is a very touching scene between Lily and Elisa, and it's so good. It does appear in the movie and it happened in the book as well. It just they had a really good relationship. I really liked their bond, and I think the character in both the movie and the book was really good. These next three characters, I'm going to gloss over them a little bit. We have Marshall. I don't have much opinion about him. That's Elisa's partner. He he's like an adult child, honestly. Which I don't love. Did not appreciate that. But yeah, just with the whole like so there's this thing at the bar in the book and the movie where if you wear a onesie you get a free, like, you get free drinks or something. He's like that type of guy. I just not type of guy I'd be with personally. But yeah, he's that type of guy that I guess has a lot of money. I mean, I would be with a lot of money part. But yeah, in the movie he's not really present that much. In the book there's something he does that made me not like him. He tells it's something I want to say he rats, like, so Lily ends up staying with Atlas, um because Lily and Ryle, they ended up moving in together, getting married. She wants to go somewhere else to stay. She doesn't feel safe in her own home, and she stays with Atlas. And Marshall just, you know, he ends up telling Ryle things, and which gets him more upset. And I just, yeah, like, I didn't like Marshall for that because it's like, why did you tell Ryle? They are friends, but like, just, I don't know, fuck you. So then we had Jenny, which is Lily's mom. So there was a very big scene in the book that happens where, because the whole time between Lily and her mom is that they're not really talking about either like each other's abuse or anything. They're not touching on that at all. It's always like an elephant in the room type of situation. And towards the end, you finally have that conversation between them, and it's so good. And it's not in the movie. It's not in the freaking movie. Why? That was such a good part. That was so important. And you know, another thing that wasn't in the movie, you know what grinds my gears? Is like a lot of the letter writing, like reading those journal entries is not in the movie. Why cut that out? There was a lot of important information in there about the past and about Lily's upbringing, and there's like barely any of that, and it was so good. If anything, it was the better parts of the story in my opinion, and you're just going to leave that out? Like, fuck you. But yeah, I felt like Lily and her mom's relationship, I felt like it was very interesting, and I could totally see that in real life, where I think, you know, she was trying to protect her daughter. And yeah, I feel like that's what she was trying to do. And I can respect that, and I like that they end up in a good place at the end of everything, and I like that they had the conversations that they had. And then we had Andrew, which was Lily's dad, and I mean, he sucks. Like, there's no like, there's just nothing, you know. Like, he's barely in the movie. And in the book, it's like all the flashbacks because he's passed away now in present day, and he just sucks. So I don't have much to say about that. So I have touched on plot. I didn't realize I was going to touch on a lot of the plot while I was talking about the characters, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else with plot that I want to touch on. Oh yes, one important thing that I do want to touch on that I kind of had a problem with, but I'm understanding why it wasn't a thing. So when Lily goes through the sexual assault and she gets pregnant, I was very surprised that not one character talked about her getting an abortion. It was just assumed by Lily and by all the characters in the book that she would just have this baby, which she does end up having the baby. And I just didn't like that. And I guess Colleen Hoover is pro-life, and that's why that happens. But to me, it didn't feel realistic. I felt like there should have at least been one character that was like, are you sure you want to have this baby, like considering what happened and stuff. I just didn't like, it felt absent to the plot and to the story, and I didn't love that personally. I don't think there's much more that I have to talk about with plot, because I did end up talking about it with the characters and the things that end up happening. That, you know, Ryle comes off as, you know, the beginning of the story comes off as a charismatic guy with a really good career, and it does seem too good to be true. I have an ex that is like that personally, where he really was too good to be true, and then I discovered why. And yeah, no one is perfect. And I just, my word of advice to people when you're meeting someone for the first time and they really do seem too good to be true, run. Just run. Like, there is something bad on the other side. It's not greener. The grass is not greener on that other side. Like, there's something that's not present yet that you haven't discovered yet. And it's the same thing with this. Like, there was definitely a dark side to him. Ryle and Lily, they do there's some co-parenting in there, and I didn't love that personally considering their history, but you know, that's just the choice that she made. I don't know how realistic that is. I mean, I guess in some relationships that would happen. I just, not in mine. Not in mine. If my partner was abusive and we had a child, me and that child would be in the hell away from that person. There's just no way that I would want that in my life personally. And to be honest too, I don't know. I don't know if I would have had the child, but I also don't have children. So I know, like, and I can never get pregnant personally. So I fortunately don't have to be in that predicament. But I do wonder, for any women listening, like, how would you feel like if you were in this situation, and like, what would be your course of action? I'm curious to know about that. But yeah, I think with plot, we're good there. And the writing style, just yeah, it just was, it was what it was there. I guess I don't have much more to say on that. I'm going to go into some book club questions, and I may have answered some already, but let's get into it. And then after that, I'm going to get into a little bit of that movie drama that I was talking about at the beginning of the episode. So, first question is, this is a story of domestic abuse and patterns that start during childhood. Lily, determined not to follow in her mother's footsteps, makes the same mistake and ends up in an abusive relationship. How did you feel about this? So, yeah, I mean, I felt very sad for both of them, and I also feel like that does happen. That does happen, and not even just in this type of situation, but I know like sometimes when people have like an alcoholic parent and they claim that they're not going to end up the same way, and sometimes they do. Like sometimes we only know what we learn from our parents. And also too, like, Lily, her experience with the abuse, like when she was a child, none of it was to her specifically, and she was so young that it's like there was only so much she was going to be able to grasp from that. So, I wouldn't say she was naive necessarily or anything. It's just she unfortunately entered this relationship not knowing that he was going to be like this. One big red flag, and this happens in the movie and the book, is that at the like I mean literally when they first meet and they're both on the roof, he's like kicking a chair and like really angry, like he's showing a lot of anger. And I personally, I don't know if I would have even engaged with that type of energy in that person, but he had like lost a patient or something, but like that was like the way he was handling that with that chair, that was definitely some foreshadowing. That was definitely a red flag type of situation there. Other parts of that question was, were you frustrated with her or did you understand and have compassion? I definitely was never frustrated with her. I definitely felt compassion. I definitely was understanding of the predicament and the situation, and I just wanted her to be able to get out of that. Like I said, I don't think she was naive. I don't think she was dumb. I think she was human, and she was trying to just love someone and didn't truly know who that person was or what they were capable of. And also it's asking, did your viewpoint change throughout the book? Yeah, no. Like I liked Lily the whole time, and just yeah, I always have empathy for women or anyone that are in these types of situations, because I wouldn't wish that on anyone to go through that. Another book question is, Ryle suffered a traumatic trauma as a child. That's what I mentioned earlier. Do you think this was justification for his bad behavior towards Lily? 10 million percent no. I do not think that it justifies anything. I guess it adds some clarity to why why he is the way he is. It added a little bit of clarity because it's a traumatic event that wasn't addressed properly. But I don't think there's ever an excuse for domestic abuse. Never, never, never. Just my opinion. So this question also says, he is sorry for what he does and he's a good person. I don't like that part of the question because my opinion, I don't think he's a good person. He he's not like, when she wants to end the relationship, he's not understanding about it. And at least in my take of reading this story, like he wasn't understanding at all about it. He wasn't happy about the decision. He definitely, she was trying to have space with him and definitely like went through some boundaries there, like definitely had some boundary issues there. So I don't really think he learned anything personally, and I don't think he's a good person. I just, so I don't like that part of the question. But this book question is asking like, he's sorry for what he does. Does this make you more sympathetic towards him? No, because words are words. You can say anything and not like, you can tell me you're sorry, but if you're gonna do it again, like I need to see change. I need to see action behind that. I need to see that to show me that you're truly sorry, you need to show me different behavior. That's my opinion on that. So, next book question, Lily was vulnerable when she met Atlas. How did this affect the choices she made regarding him? Did her parents' tumultuous relationship play into this at all? That's a good question. I really didn't think about that when I was going through, just when I was reading this book and watching the movie. I really didn't think about that. And I also don't like that question in a way, because that brings it back to him being 19 and her being 15. And yeah, like, in a way, technically, like, he could have, you could see that as like he was manipulating her because she is just a child, you know? And yeah, he's like a young adult, but he's still an adult. And I just, and her being in such a vulnerable state, and I feel like too, like, I've been through that too, or like when I've been in a very vulnerable state and I had developed certain relationships with certain people that I don't think I would have if I had the, if I wasn't in that vulnerable state, and if I didn't have the self-love that I have today, I wouldn't have even like engaged with that type of connection. So yeah, I felt like that it definitely, I don't know, if she wasn't in such a vulnerable state, maybe they wouldn't have developed this romantic relationship that Hoover was trying to paint to us. To be completely honest, I think she could do better than both for the most part. Like, I don't think they're great choices. Atlas is the better choice, but it's just okay, you know? Like, I think she just like really needed a clean slate with that. Like, just start over, you know? And yeah, I definitely think that her parents' relationship definitely played into her vulnerability and seeking him for comfort 100%. So, another question, Lily was lucky to have two men love her. I don't know if she was lucky for these specific men to love her, but okay. Each shaped her life in different ways. First, discuss how each made Lily a better person. Then discuss the negatives of each relationship. Ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. Okay. So, her relationship with Ryle, it it unfortunately did make it, it made her a better person in a bad way. Like, it's just one of those things that we've all gone through, and like, not obviously not this specific situation, we haven't all been through, but just we've all been through difficult situations, and they, I believe they've made us better people at the end of the day. Like, that we had to go through really hard shitty times to become better people, to become stronger people. And I think her going through this relationship did make her a stronger person. As unfortunate as the situation was, it definitely made her a stronger person. It definitely made her a better person, in my opinion. And then with Atlas, I felt like a lot of the things that they went through during their childhood, or during her childhood, I felt like that's what helped shape her to be a compassionate person and a giving person and become who she was today. And then with Ryle, you know, she just I think became an even more improved version of herself. Do I think that her and Atlas should entertain something in present day? Not necessarily. I think everything, sometimes it's just okay to have that past relationship and not engage in it again. But for the sake of romance novels, you know, that might happen. Does that happen in real life a lot? I don't think so. And I think sometimes that's for the better. That, you know, sometimes we do reminisce on past relationships and think, oh, you know, it could be so much better if that happened now. But I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and that they were supposed to have their thing when they had it. And it didn't necessarily mean that it needed to, like, not saying he couldn't be in her life again, but do they need to have a romantic sexual relationship again? Personally, I don't think they needed that. I think Lily would still be a wonderful person on her own. I think friends like Elisa really help. And I think at that point, yeah, just like meet someone new, clean slate, and just like, and keep just, you know, loving yourself and becoming that better person. But yeah, I mean, there was clear negatives of the relationship with Ryle. With Atlas, I'm trying to see. I read It Starts With Us, which is the sequel, and I don't want to give anything away that happens in that book, because I'm like, yeah, there's technically something that Atlas, there's a couple shitty things that Atlas did, but they happen in that book, that's revealed. And I wouldn't say they're as shitty as what Ryle does, but I guess a negative, without giving too much away, is that Atlas isn't the most honest person, and that's all I can really say on that, because we didn't get the full story yet, and it ends with us. Once you read It Starts With Us, then you learn more about Atlas, and yeah, there's definitely a bigger focus on him. But yeah, so I would say the way he handled situations was not the best, and that's kind of like the most I can go on to that without spoiling. um but like I said, if you want that episode, let me know. So did you like or dislike reading Lily's journal and letters to Ellen DeGeneres? Like I said earlier, I think that was like some of the best parts of the book. With Ellen, though, I mean, I'm actually surprised they didn't choose a different celebrity in the movie, even though it was after all the controversy with her. They did keep it her. They don't really touch on it much. And there's a lot of like "just keep swimming." That's a big quote in the book, and in the movie I almost feel like that was part of the reason they don't even really say it. I think it's shown in the movie, but I think it's because they just didn't want to, it's already a tough movie, and then to like try to paint her as good, like as like a good person, I just you know. So last question I'm going to go over is, this book covers some sensitive topics. How do you think the author handled these? The story is also personal to the author. Do you think it added anything to the story? So originally I didn't love, and I guess, I don't know, I felt like, because she has gone through this personally in her life, I feel, it sounds kind of bad, but like I feel better about the story now versus like her just making up a traumatic event and she has no experience with it or no knowledge on it. Knowing that she, like, this has touched her life personally and people that she loves, I do think that she handled it pretty well. Whereas my original read on it, I was just thinking, like, are you just writing about things just to write about them because they're shitty things and it'll keep people engaged? Like, I don't, like the rage baiting, or just like the, just trying to like tug at people's emotional heartstrings just for the sake of it, just to make things up. So I feel a little bit better that there was not only some research done, but that there was personal experience that she could touch on. And I do respect that. At the end of the day, I do respect that. All right, so here is that movie theory thing. So there was some drama, considering, with Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover, and Justin Baldoni. It seemed like that Justin Baldoni was doing a lot of the press tours and the marketing and the advertising for the movie. He was doing a lot of it by himself, whereas Colleen Hoover and the cast were like very united and doing a lot together, but Justin was absent from a lot of it, which was strange. It came out very strange. And they were sent, all they've really said about it was that there was creative differences, which, come on, like, we know there's so much more. We know there's so much more tea. Well, all of you, I think, this is the tea portion of the podcast, where I think I got some information that it's allegedly, but I believe it. I believe the tea here. So, like I said earlier, Justin Baldoni was the director, he's a producer. He was a big part of he had film rights to the story. Like, he was a big part of getting this rolling and everything. Well, according to some sources, when the editing process started, Blake Lively was really trying to take control of that, and that apparently, like, a lot of the decision making became hers when it came to the editing process, and a lot of what she wanted was what went through. And she, I mean, she's with Ryan Reynolds, and she has a lot of powerful connections, so I could totally believe that she was just like, really trying, like, maybe having some diva moments and wanting. I've heard some rumors that Ryan Reynolds really tries to take control of the movies that he's in as well. And there's just certain celebrities that are like that. They like things to go the way that they want. And one glaring issue that I had with there was a big difference how Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively were talking about this story. And what Blake was doing, that was very controversial in my opinion, was that she was talking It Ends With Us up as like this romantic, like this like fun romantic, like watch this movie with the girls, you're gonna have a good time. And that is just not this type of story. It's very misleading. And I don't want people going into this thinking like, oh yeah, we're gonna get this like cute romance story. Oh, it's gonna be so romantic. Like, no, it is not. Like, this is a tough story. And Justin, I felt like, was doing a better job. I just don't like that he was being painted as potentially like this problematic person to work with or this bad guy. To me, I really felt like he got the essence of the story and he was trying to reflect that. And I'm kind of surprised that Colleen Hoover isn't supporting him more publicly. It almost seems like she's siding with Blake, and I don't like that. So, but yeah, so that's like some of the tea that I got there, and why Justin was distancing himself some more there. And it would definitely make sense to why the movie was the way that it was, and how why it was edited the way that it was, because I felt like the editing, there was some big issues that I felt like a lot was edited out, and that things were just painted in a very different way. And yeah, there was definitely some parts I could totally feel the like, oh yeah, this is a romance story type of thing, and we're just gonna very, very, very gloss over the domestic abuse that's going on. And it's like, no, like that is such an important part of the story, and it was the whole reason why Colleen Hoover was telling the story in the first place. I think was to talk about this serious important issue that happens to so many couples. So, and I just, yeah, it would make a lot of sense. That's why I believe it. That's why I believe it's a shitty movie. um this is all just allegedly too, maybe this didn't happen at all, but it is unfortunate. And yeah, there was just not a lot of I felt like there wasn't a lot of promo because of that. I felt like the momentum for this movie kind of died off quickly because there just wasn't a lot of like PR and marketing that was more cohesive. Oh my god, it's funny that I said cohesive because Colleen Hoover, her shortened name is Coho, and you got cohesive. Get it? Anyway, I think I've talked enough here. So this will be the end of the episode. Make sure to, follow the show. I do appreciate that. Share it with people who like reading books, who like book reviews. I appreciate that so much. And I may someday set up something where if you really, really like the show and you want to contribute to it, I may set something up there where you can like donate monthly. I may come up with a supporters club type of thing, but also this isn't the like, you just listening to it helps. It helps a lot. So, and you sharing it helps a lot as well. And just us having book discussions, if you want to privately message me, that is my Instagram is @franks_fiction. That's also my TikTok account, and I think it's my Facebook too. But I mean, hey, if you have my phone number, text me about it. Like I love having the book discussions outside of the podcast as well. And, if you ever want to, if you're a Bookstagram person, and you can also hit me up if, if we want to do a buddy read with me and talk with me on the show. I have a friend that I'm so excited. His name is Hammy, and we have a buddy read that we finished, and there is works of planning an episode together. So that is super exciting to do that. I just love talking to people about books, and I love talking about books in general. So I hope all of you enjoyed this episode, and I hope all of you have a super special awesome day, and bye.